Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. I am RDY, and joining me today are
Barack Malkin,
Ethan Lane Miller,
Miriam Anzovin.
In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. Our guest for today's episode is Miriam Anzovin. She is a writer, visual artist, and TikTok creator who explores the juxtaposition of pop culture, nerd culture, and Jewish culture. In her viral Daf Reactions TikTok series, Miriam shares comedic millennial commentary on her daily Talmud study through a modern lens. She even got a shout out today on a podcast I listened to from Israel. It's made in Tel Aviv. Noah Ephron gave her a shout out and said that she is sponsored by Big Talmud. She is a massive fan of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, the Expanse books, the Cosmere, sci-fi and fantasy in general, and she has created pop culture GIF articles and podcast episodes exploring many of those topics. Welcome, Miriam.
Yay, welcome.
Shalom, friends. I am truly delighted to be here.
No, it's super fun.
We are so happy to have you.
You know, I remember the day, I think it was a day or two after you and I started having conversation because somebody tagged you for a Dungeons and Dragons thing, that you were in an article of 50 Jewish women to know. And I was like, that's so fun. I just started messaging her. That's great.
Yeah, it's it's recently been incredibly surprising, because all of this is relatively recent, when I show up on lists of Jews to follow or Jews who are doing things, because up until very recently, nobody knew who I was. So it's always a laugh for me. I always laugh extremely hard. If I'm mentioned in an article, shout it out on a podcast, or show up in a list of any type. So thank you to everybody who's talking about me. I will continue to be shocked.
And thank you, because I regularly laugh while listening to your podcast and watching your TikTok videos. And so thank you for that.
I'm delighted to hear that, because making people laugh is, I feel, one of the most important things on earth. I think it's probably a mitzvah, even if it's not expressly stated as
There's
one of the 613 mitzvot. It feels like it should be.
Is there a laughing mitzvah somewhere?
There is no mitzvah specific to laughing, but it should be 614, I think.
I believe so
614.
Or if 615 is turn off your cell phone, then 614 is definitely make people laugh. And that's why there's so many Jews in comedy and, vaudeville, Entertainment Today, and so many comedians who we go, I think he's Jewish. No, Mom, Robin Williams is not Jewish.
That's right. It's a commandment. That's why we're doing this.
Nice.
For sure.
So you know what I realized before you introduced the episode? I'd automatically asked RDY to clarify, but now we have somebody on the podcast who also knows more Judaism than the rest of us as well, because you're studying all the time. So I apologize. I will this episode say, Miriam and RDY, tell me the Jewish thing, and that's
I'm happy to do it, but also I totally don't want to take I'm not a usurper, okay? I'm not a Robert Baratheon. I don't want to take anybody's assigned Iron Throne, so I'm happy to answer anything, but I defer to others too. That's totally fine.
Awesome.
For today's topic, we heard, among other things, your love of fantasy, specifically Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So we wanted to look at Lord of the Rings, specifically the main trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Fellowship, Two Towers, Return, and talk about that. So I want to start with asking you, Miriam, what do you love about Lord of the Rings? And don't feel like you have to limit yourself to a thing.
There is no way to limit it to a thing, because it is a entire world. I will say that my father read the entire trilogy to me when I was 4 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Approximately the same time that we were getting into being more Jewish. We're from a Baal Tshuva family. That's a family who has become more and more observant on the road to orthodoxy, as it were. So about the same time that we as a family were doing this journey, also was my introduction to being a massive nerd. So when I describe myself as being a massive nerd for Judaism, as well as all these other things that I love so much, well, it's very difficult. It is very difficult to take those apart. But
I'm having a tough time imagining. I have a 3.5 and a 1.5-year-old, and I can only like sitting down and reading The Lord of the Rings and like in the evening story time period, and then also reading all of the indexed like things on the side of the pages. Did you read those too?
So I would lay next to my father and he would hold the book up like this. And I, of course, couldn't really
very
read at
heavy
that point.
book.
The very heavy book.
Yeah.
And it was the one illustrated by Alan Lee, one of the greatest illustrators who worked on the trilogy, as we know. Absolutely amazing, amazing illustrator. And I would follow along as he read, but it was so fascinating to me. And many times we almost did drop that book right on our faces as we went. That was a little scary, but we went through the whole thing like that. And I don't actually remember how long it took, but I remember when it was over, being shook, my life was changed at the age of 4. So if you ask me what are the things I really love about it, there are many, but I will say one particular character who did not get exactly the treatment I feel this character deserved. No, it's not Tom Bombadil. Don't start with me. Another character in the films who did not get the correct treatment in my mind was Eowyn.
Yeah.
In the book, on the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, there's this whole entire chapter in the book where every single man on that battlefield is cowering because of the Lord of the Nazgul. He's swooping on over, he's doing all this. He's terrifying everyone left, right, and center. Everyone is cowering on that battlefield. And in that moment, when she's standing over Theoden's body, trying to protect him, she laughs. That's what Merry hears. He hears among all the sounds, a sound that is so strange. And it's her laughter. She's laughing in his face. And it's so crazy to him because he can't imagine that in this circumstance where not only are people afraid because he's a terrifying being, but also he emits, he causes fear. He causes the emotion of fear that's part of his power, the Lord of the Nazgul. She instead is standing there alone, laughing at him. Mm-hmm. And that moment taught me the power of a woman's laughter. And that has stuck with me forever. My hair still stands up when I think about that scene. I read it every so often because it's so profound. That character was not done right in the films. Unfortunately, she deserved far more than she was given.
Sadly, Liv Tyler was tougher in Armageddon.
Yeah, I will never forgive Peter Jackson. I love him for a lot of things, but I will never forgive for stealing her thunder and giving it then, having her crawl away and having that really disgusting orc then try to get her. She just got in a fight with the Lord of the Nazgul and killed him. And then you're giving this second-rate baddie trying to chase after her and she has to be rescued. No. And then even worse than that, we have the whole thing where, great, okay, Aragorn's here and he's got the whole army of the dead, Mazel Tov. And Legolas is doing swooping down the snout or the trunk, I should say, of the mammoths. And you're telling me that you could not have taken that moment and really given it to her as it is in the books. I rest my case.
Yeah. Now I'm someone who never, I read The Hobbit. I didn't read the trilogy, but I've seen the movies. And so this is
Why are you here?
Eye-opening. We're representing diverse interests.
Yeah. We have
okay.
So one of the things I was thinking was is this what I sound like when I talk about Star Trek?
He's here for the Star Trek perspective on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get that. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, this is eye-opening for me. I had no idea that there was, of course there's so much more in the book, but that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Also, I remember the second book spills into the first and third movie.
Yes.
So I remember watching the second movie with my wife and saying, where's the spider? like
But-
that's the best part.
But thank God, Baruch Hashem, that it did not end there, because I remember very vividly as a child when Sam thinks Frodo is dead, and
Dead,
that's
yeah.
how it ends. And I
Right.
was like, look, I couldn't swear at that age because I didn't know any, but just imagine, mind blown, absolute abject depression. I could not bear this thought. So I'm actually glad that in the films they did not make that cut exactly where it was, because I think people would have gotten too depressed, to be
Well,
honest.
I think
I'm-
people wouldn't have wanted it. It's like the next movie stars a spider at the beginning.
No, I've been like,
no
hell
thanks.
no.
No thanks.
I have to disagree with you there, though, because George Lucas says that your 3 acts should be Act 1, get everyone to love the characters. Act 2, get them in a situation they cannot get out of. Act 3, get them out of it. You know, when I thought Frodo was dead at the end of the second book, sure, I had the ability to get the third book right away, but that's a good end to a second act.
Oh, it's a great ending, and it really is. But for film, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know if it would have been too much, especially
Oh.
because people took their kids to the Lord of the Rings movies. And I kept hearing it when I was watching Fellowship. I remember this vividly, the scene where the cave troll is attacking them in Moria and trying to get Frodo. This mom behind me kept going, oh my God. And she had a kid back there. And I was like, why do you have a child here? Now, I know I just said that I read it at 4, or it was read to me at 4, but that is a very different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's your
Seeing
own terrifying imagery. It's
Right, exactly.
Way worse. It's way worse.
Oh, yeah.
Artie White, can I bring us back into it? I
was just about to say it's probably
yeah.
I was just about to say it's probably time to smash this.
Let's do it.
So
Is that are you gonna? It sounds like a good catchphrase. Like, let's smash this.
let's smash this. I'm going off in all kinds of different directions in my head now, Barack. Thank you. My ADD activated. Now, I think depending on where we look at this series, whether we look at it at the movies, the books, the battles, the characters, I think there is a lot of Jewish content.
Absolutely.
And so I want to try and hone in on the ring, the One Ring.
Mm.
Okay.
You mean the yetzer hara?
Oh my God, you nailed it.
Oh my
right
God.
out of the box.
We don't even get to banter. Is that what it is? Is that the guess?
See, this is what happens when working with true genius.
I was gonna ask. Do you mean Sauron's Horcrux? Is that what we're gonna talk about today? 100%.
Give credit where credit is due. I mean, that idea.
I know 100. Like this is decades before Harry Potter, so I totally get. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's a Horcrux. It's that makes it so much easier to understand now.
I'll give you one other interesting and tangentially Jewish connection between Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. They both came out in the same year.
Mhm.
They did. I
And
remember it
The
well.
movies did. The books were
movies.
decades apart.
And my wife Natalie and I were living in Israel at the time. It was our first year of rabbinical for me, cantorial school for her. And we went to the English movies as often as we could. And so we went to both of these movies with lots of classmates. And when you go to an English language movie in Israel, they don't edit it. They just subtitle it. So there's no sound dubbing. A lot of other countries, you'll see their lips moving in English, and then you'll hear "Oh, bonjour, Pierre," and which are like the only 2 French words they speak. And but in Israel, they put subtitles, and the subtitles all look the same. White, blocky Hebrew going across the screen, appearing and then disappearing for the next one. Both Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter had specialized subtitles.
Oh, really?
The Harry Potter ones, it was how they moved. They kind of like magicked in,
that's
magicked
fun.
out.
That's cool.
That's
And
a lot of
actually really
budget.
cool.
And the Lord of the Rings subtitles were in golden Torah scroll font.
Wow, that's
Oh my
super cool.
God. That is
was-
epic.
Gorgeous. I had to see the
Epic.
movie again because I was watching the subtitles the whole time. It was gorgeous.
Was it distracting?
Yeah, I had to watch the movie again because I was watching the subtitles again.
I do have to say that I can't abide things that are dubbed. I am a frequent watcher, and I mean every single day, of C-dramas and K-dramas, and really, I will not tolerate any dubbing at all whatsoever. Yes, I have to read while watching. Yes, I'm going to write about this. Nobody cares, but that's nobody wanted to hear my input on that, but that is what it is.
Hey, if you care, email us, torsmash@gmail.com.
Right. If there's a group of people who care, it's probably people who listen to this podcast. So you're in good hands.
Actually,
yeah.
Okay, so she nailed it right away. We don't get to guess.
Right. No, the One Ring is the yetzer hara.
That's amazing. That's great. We've never gotten it that fast. I'm glad we had that long banter at the beginning because it filled in a lot of the time that we just lost by you nailing it.
But there's so much more that's Jewish about.
I'm gonna say that what actually happened is that RDY and I argued over who could host this episode, and so we each dove and created a lot of topics, and then he decided that he had like the best topic, so he's going to go with it.
Wait,
and so
we decided.
Yeah, and so there's like each of us had a number of things that we were willing to bring to the table. So we can branch off, I'm sure, at some point if we want to, but the fact that out of all of those pieces, you just immediately, that's crazy. I'm glad we didn't go with my topic. Glad we didn't go with my topic.
Wait, what was your topic?
No, I'll save it for another episode.
Okay. I do want to
keep listening, folks. Keep listening.
Yes, I actually do want to define that term because I know I said it, but we didn't say what it means.
Please.
So for anybody who's listening who is not familiar with this term.
This is for Susan.
For Susan. The yetzer hara and the yetzer tov are the inclinations within each of us. The yetzer tov is the positive inclination to do good things. The yetzer hara on the opposite side is that which makes us choose or suggest to us to choose selfish things, bad quote unquote things, egotistical driven things. So the ring in this way is very much almost an external manifestation of the yetzer hara that is within each of the characters who interact with the ring. We see this, of course, most vividly with Boromir, who isn't himself a bad person at all. He's motivated by the right things, but the yetzer hara, or the ring in this case, flips it. He twists it, or it twists it to be then something that brings out the absolute worst within Boromir, things that would never have come out themselves. He would never have threatened Frodo as he did if not for the added push of the ring. Now, of course, the difference between the ring and the yetzer hara, these concepts, is the ring does contain elements of Sauron's power. So there is an external force. The yetzer hara and the yetzer tov really are innately part of us. So there is that bit of a difference, but is what that
not affected by a Horcrux or some evil soul or anything.
Right.
Just innately.
I want to add two things. Number one, a word on pronunciation. You're going to hear Miriam and me pronounce the phrase yetzer hara slightly differently. We're both right. And it's more like it's similar to a regionalism. We'll just leave it at that. And the second thing is that every main character in Lord of the Rings deals with their own yetzer hara and their own yetzer hatov. And I would say the one who's probably least affected by it is Éowyn, who knows what she needs to do, but she's dealing with two people's different yetzer hatovs rather than evil and good. And that's the thing about evil and good, is that they're never labeled. It's usually bad and a little better, or good and a little worse, rather than bad and good.
Yeah. I will say something about Tolkien versus, and this is not, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but in my experience, I read Tolkien when I was young, and then when I became an adult, that's when Game of Thrones came into my life. And the thing I do appreciate about Game of Thrones is the many shades of gray for each character that changes throughout different moments in their character arc. It's not that one character is good and then becomes evil. It's those nuances and complexities that aren't missing from Tolkien, but are less prevalent in Tolkien's characters. They're often quite idealized. They're often very much broken out into good, quote unquote, and not so great, or evil. There are a few, obviously, who have those shades of gray, but not as much as in Game of Thrones. But that's not saying one is better or worse.
But that's also the difference in entertainment in 50 years.
That's true.
Yeah, I would also say the Game of Thrones story expands a much longer period of time as a whole, whereas the Lord of the Rings journey is like a couple weeks.
Whoa! Oh my God!
Uh-oh.
Sir.
Cool. Yes.
Okay. So the length of time.
You have to start with an actually.
Okay. Actually.
Yeah.
In the books.
Yeah.
Guess how much time is between Bilbo piecing out of the Shire and Gandalf showing up and going, "Oh, dude, we've got a problem."
Right.
Oh, between
17 years.
Wait, when Bilbo leaves the Shire.
Yep. So he goes on his birthday.
On his
on his
71st birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, in the movie it was like the same day.
It was the next scene.
Right. It was the next scene.
Comes back.
Well, so you see Gandalf, he goes to Minas Tirith, he does all this research, he moves scrolls here and there. He's like, oh, he's opening Torah, he closes the Torah, he opens the Megillah, whatever. He goes and finds all this stuff. He's got some scenes hither and yon, and then he comes back and he's like, is it secret? Is it safe? Because, dude, we've got a problem. That's 17 years. Yeah,
they did not.
And
they did not explain that well in the movie. Yeah.
Well, they also didn't really need to have it be 17 years, but you have to remember that Frodo is also like in his mid-30s by the time this is
They would have
happening.
had to cast another character to play young Frodo then, and then introduce that piece of it. But go ahead.
Hobbits age at different rates.
Slowly, yeah.
Oh,
guess how old Aragorn is. Guess.
Very old.
Guess.
Hold on. I'm trying to remember which one Aragorn is. I realize that
my God.
Oh, okay. We should... Hey, Ethan, how old is Aragorn?
Nope. Ethan's quiet. Quiet.
I noticed that most of the characters in the Lord of the Rings...
and appalled. Listener, I am shocked and appalled.
I
Ethan
noticed
knows how old Spock is, but...
He's in his 80s.
Aragorn?
He's in his 80s.
Okay.
He looks real good for in his 80s.
I was going to say that I noticed that while watching, almost all the characters have G's in their name in some way or another. And I think that confused me of trying to clarify who is who, because I was like, oh, that one has a G. That's easy to remember. And then we met another one like, that one has a G. Shoot.
Yeah, like the silent G's in Frodo and Sam.
Well, Frodo Baggins and Sam.
And Mary.
They're
and Pippin.
Fine. I'm not talking about just... I was like using full names. Fine.
And Theoden.
Well, he is a king.
Hey, thank you for finding.
He is.
I
love Theoden.
All right. I would guess that Aragorn's about in his 80s. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Now, I could ask you why, but I'll save that for later if we get to talk about
he's had at least 80 birthdays. I'd say that'd be why.
Wasn't that from being in the elven realm, like spending time in the elven realm? No.
Incorrect. Try again.
Does he have some sort of other species blood?
Does he have really good skincare routine?
Necessarily. Okay, so the upcoming, possibly. Well, that actually is possible. He does perhaps have a good skincare routine, although the entire time you never see him put on SPF. The entire time he's schlepping anywhere. Oh, sorry. Just wanted to go back to how long this whole thing takes.
Yes.
From the time they leave the Shire to the time they ring into the fire and then they're on the way back, it's more than a year. It's a long time. It takes a long time to get from point A to point B. Getting back to Aragorn's age. So we will see...
Viggo Mortensen, for everybody else that just checked.
Correct. We will see in the new
Who
Rings
does have
of
a G in
Power
his name.
show.
2 G's in his name.
You are correct. He does. He does. And Gollum. Mm-hmm. You're right. Oh my gosh. There's a letter that appears multiple times. Like
the alphabet.
Yeah.
I probably could have chosen any letter and be like, everybody's got like an A or an R in their name.
Exactly. So the reason, so we're going to see in the Rings of Power show, although, I don't know a lot about what we're actually going to see, but I do know that part of it is set on Numenor, which is the island in the middle of the ocean between the Undying Lands and Middle Earth before everything went kaflooey. It's the whole thing. We're going to see it. And no, this is not a spoiler alert. Go read the Silmarillion. However, the people who lived on Numenor had longer lifespans, and he is a descendant of them. the race of Numenor. They're not actually a different race, but they're people with extended lifespans. And actually the whole reason that Numenor is destroyed is because they're trying to actually extend that to the immortality enjoyed by the elves and enjoyed by anybody on the Undying Lands. So they sail to try to get that. And that does not go well because they're not supposed to have it. And thus the entirety of the island is destroyed and everything in Middle-earth is reformed.
Isn't Numenor supposed to be like Atlantis?
In a way, yes, it is an island in the middle of the ocean that is also consumed in its destruction. But there's also a lot of Jewish connections there, I may add.
Just this island has a lot of Jewish connections?
Like mikvah?
I don't believe there is a mikvah on it. However, I could be wrong.
Well,
but
if it all sinks, then...
There are some parallels, especially with the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. There's also a part in the Silmarillion where literally the king who's starting to do really bad things is actually described. He hardened his heart, and his name is Al-Farazon.
Oh, wow.
From Pharaoh. A little bit on the nose there. But yeah, so that is the reason why Aragorn with a G is in his 80s.
Nice. Very fun.
Awesome.
Can I bring us back to the yetzer hara, yetzer tov?
Please do.
A question for us. If you were affected by the ring, what is the yetzer hara that would expose itself?
Ooh.
Well, it depends on who it is. Because each of us...
You. I'm asking all of us. So I'll go first as a good Jewish professional.
Right.
I'm going to go first. If it exposed in myself, I'm like a very nice person. I was trying to think of like what parts of myself I like hold back. And I think that it's lethargy, like sloth. Like I think that if I had the ring, I would be like a couch potato and I would be so unproductive and like my willpower would just disappear that I would play video games, watch movies, not do any work and not go. I would just hang out and chill and just do that. I don't think I have like an innate, it's just like, it feels so high of me, but like, I don't think I have like this innate want to harm or talk badly or do bad things. It's just this, like, I don't want to get up in the morning and work out. Why? Like I think that's how it would affect me. That'd be my yetzer hara would be lethargy.
It's not too bad.
Would be lethargic. Anybody else?
Oh, Ethan's here.
Yeah, hey everybody. How's the last 20 minutes? I just stepped out.
Sorry about that.
No, it's great. Again, there'll be a Star Trek episode or something later on. Don't worry.
And then I'll be quiet.
I'm worried, which I think is an interesting way to phrase it. I'd be worried that it would be selfishness. Because like I think I worry now that like sometimes I'm oblivious, but sometimes I think it's easy to be selfish, easy to just be like, oh, well, this other person will take care of it. I can pretend I didn't see what just happened and not deal with it. And so I would be concerned that that's what would be expressed in me. We're getting a little deep right now, actually.
Yeah.
We're not like, these characters are experiencing out of the ordinary, extraordinary situations in really out of the ordinary places and situations that like, maybe if he never left the Shire, right? I don't know what Frodo's negativity would be, right? Bilbo just shut himself in his house and he didn't really like do much. Well, in the movies, you can feel free to correct me, but I don't know once he got back with that ring in his pocket, if he did much around town hurting people or anything, right? I think he just became a shut-in and a grumpy neighbor. It's what it seemed like in the movie. So I think at home in our situation, if we were traveling the world in our RVs, maybe we would do something different, but we're not. I mean,
this is an interesting contrast. If I could actually pull in something I can talk about a little bit. Like when we're talking about shades of gray and morality, I thought of Star Wars. And when we think about the original trilogy, it came out, starting in 1977, there's not a lot of shades of gray. Like there's literally the Force and the dark side of the Force. There's not really a gray side of the Force. And when we think about what we know about Anakin's fall into Darth Vader, he went from hero to youngling slayer really, really fast.
Yeah. So
there wasn't this subtle, like, what dark part of my personality that's not like mustache twirly evil is coming out. And it's interesting nuance that it's not like we're all going to start going around doing terrible things. It's like, what trait is going to be expressed that we don't want to be expressed, that temptation. There's much more nuance.
I think we all have it. We just have to work on it, and we make a conscious effort to do it. So this would just expose it.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam, RDY, what are your thoughts?
RDY, you go first.
Yes, ma'am. I think for me, it's anger. And it's something that I've been struggling with all my life. Just like I'm very emotional. I get hot-headed. And especially when I see injustices in the world, for about a year and a half or so, a few years back, I got off Facebook completely because it was really making me angry. And then I had to get back on because that's how we communicated during pandemic. But I also learned how to speak to my children in a calmer way, which is very, and much apologies to my beloved firstborn who had to get the brunt of it. But after Miriam goes, I would like to tell a midrash about yetzer hara. So,
okay. I know exactly what I would do. It's not unlike to what Galadriel says she wants to do. Essentially, I would go full season 8 Daenerys. No question in my mind, that is exactly what I would do.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Wait, you just said Galadriel said this? She said she would go season 8 Daenerys?
Galadriel in Fellowship says that, if she gets the ring, when Frodo offers her the ring, she's like, I would become a queen more beautiful and terrible to behold, and everything.
Oh yeah, she turns
all of the
dark.
power.
Yeah.
Right, she would have all of the power, and she knows though that she can't do that, because if she did it, she would just become exactly like Sauron, literally exactly like him.
Yeah,
she says, beautiful and terrible. Mm-hmm. That's what she says. So
brilliant catch, and that great example of every character going through it.
Yeah, every character that comes into contact with it. Now, the thing I want to mention about Bilbo and the difference with him is the way he came into possession of the ring actually influenced how it affected him. So he showed mercy to Gollum in The Hobbit when he got the ring. So that actually, and I believe Gandalf actually says this, explains that is an essential difference. And usually when people get the ring, it's, bloody and violent. Like you see how Smeagol strangles his cousin to get the ring, right? How Isildur gets it by cutting it off the finger of Sauron. Anytime it is usually acquired, it's done through acts of violence. But not with Bilbo. He got it sort of accidentally and sort of because the ring decided he wanted to leave the room and go with him, the cave and go with him. But because he showed mercy, which initially Frodo doesn't understand when he's talking about this with Gandalf, because he showed mercy, that's why it doesn't really affect him too terribly. He does not age in the same way that other people around him do, because it's preserving him, but it does not make him this sort of evil or vindictive or cruel person as it affects anyone else.
That's interesting. Nice. I know when we see it the first time, when chronologically when Smeagol gets it from the lake, did I forget his name? The G guy, the guy with probably has a G in his name.
But who? There's so many, apparently.
The one who cut it off of Sauron's hand.
Isildur?
Yeah, with the silent G. Does he have it until it lands in the lake? Or is there other people that we don't know about in the middle of it?
No. So actually, this is in the very first scene of Fellowship of the Ring. So the very first scene, you see this epic battle with the elves, and they're on the slopes of Mount Doom, right? So Sauron comes out in his physical form, and Isildur cuts off his finger with a ring, and he takes it. So he, instead of destroying it in Mount Doom, which is what Elrond is like, yo, you should really do this. He's like, no, I'm not gonna. And he takes it, and he's ambushed on his way back.
Oh, that's right.
Shot by arrows, falls into the river, right?
Okay.
The ring falls into the river, and it lays there for super long time. Yeah. Super long time. And then
at least 17 years, out. 80 years.
At least 17
years.
But actually a lot more.
Cool. And one of my favorite moments of someone struggling with their Tov and Ra is when Gandalf, you feel his struggle when he's, he gives it to Frodo, like he doesn't pick it up off the ground. He makes Frodo do it. He holds out the envelope and makes Frodo put it in. And then at one point, Frodo tells Gandalf to take it, I think. And Gandalf
take it. You must take it.
Yeah. And he's
do not tempt me, Frodo.
Right. Yeah. But the line is quick, but Ian McKellen, brilliant. You can see every synapse of struggle that he goes through.
I sort of viewed that similar to what Galadriel had said. I sort of took that if he got it, he would become great and terrible if he had the power. She said
it. He showed it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But even worse than Galadriel, because if we remember, Sauron and Gandalf are actually the same category of being.
Oh, okay.
They're at the same level of power. So they are both Maiar, which are like secondary demigods, almost if we think about the Valar as the quote unquote gods of Middle Earth, even though they've retreated to the Undying Lands and they don't really want to have anything to do with what's going on in Middle Earth by the time we're getting to this part of the story. Gandalf and Sauron technically are on par with who they are, their essential being, their essential nature. So perhaps it would have been even worse had he gotten it versus Galadriel, who is incredibly powerful. I'm not going to lie, like no disrespect to Galadriel ever intended, ever. But she is an elf, which is slightly different.
It's making me want to read Silmarillion.
Oh, reread the Silmarillion?
Silmarillion? You
guys have read it though, right?
Nope.
No.
Dear listener, can you believe that they call this a nerd podcast?
You're going to lose all of our listeners.
Dear listener.
Dear listener, tune into the podcast I'm going to create after this. I'm just kidding. I'm not
the real nerds of Boston.
This is why we all have our own expertise, but this is why we bring in guest hosts, because they come with the expertise. So all of them are going to say we're not nerds, probably because we're bringing people that know more. But, we're all nerds. We share this love for these things.
It's true. That was unwelcoming of me. I was gatekeeping the nerddom, and I apologize.
That's okay.
Your yetzer
hara came out.
Your apology has overcome your yetzer hara.
Thank you. That was my yetzer tov.
I thank you for helping to create a space where 3 white men can feel safe to talk about nerd culture.
I'm glad I could do that for you.
Oh my God.
That for you.
Artie,
there's lots of other Jewish things in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I was going to ask Artie, do you have any other content that you wanted to bring up for this topic?
Oh wait, did you have a midrash?
I do.
Yeah.
So there is a midrash about, and this is where it actually veers. It makes the yetzer hara theme of Lord of the Rings slightly skewed. There's a midrash where rabbis destroy the yetzer hara and they hide it and they make it so that no one can access their yetzer hara. And what happens is everyone stops procreating, everyone stops going to their job, everyone stops feeding themselves, because things like lust and greed and all of these things that we see as bad, when tempered, they can work toward the good. So our lust, we shouldn't act only on our sexual desires, but it is, because sex is good, it makes us have children, and it makes us, fill the world as we were commanded to do. And even though greed is a bad thing, our desire to have nice things makes us be productive members of society with a job that rewards us as such. And I would even go so far as to mention my, yetzer hara of anger. If it weren't for anger, we wouldn't fight the injustices of the world. So it's how we use it.
I wouldn't set fire to King's Landing if I wasn't mad.
This is so complicated. If you take out the yetzer hara, then would there be injustices for you to be angry about?
Well, that's also a good question. That's a deeper question than the midrash goes into. But they didn't mention the injustices in the midrash. I brought that in.
But just because you're not one of the midrash rabbi, you can't.
But they stopped having sex, so they stopped making babies, and they stopped eating because their gluttony was gone. So since they had zero access to it, and that's the idea of finding the balance between the yetzer hara and the yetzer hatov, is that yes, we want things to be focused toward the good, but sometimes our carnal desires can, instead of eliminating them, we are to transform them.
I like that.
There's a great episode of Star Trek about this.
Hey,
Wait, may I ask, are you a next gen person, or what's your fave? I know this is a sidebar. Just curious.
I mean,
And
it's
for
an
those-
easy.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was
Okay,
going to say, for those that are really interested, you can go back and listen to episode 8.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
When this comes out, that will have aired.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Deep Space Nine.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So when we talk about gray characters and
Yeah.
morality, like that's
Oh,
when
yeah.
we first really get to taste that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally Deep Space Nine.
Absolutely.
so
I want to
there's-
say, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say something about your midrash. Firstly,
Yeah.
Do it. I'm pointing at you.
For listeners who may not be familiar with this term, I don't know if they are. Are they? In case they aren't,
Yeah.
a midrash is fan fiction. That's exactly what it
100%.
is. It's fan fiction. So this all makes total sense, but it is fan fiction. And second, the thing I wanted to note is that commandment to be fruitful and multiply only applies to men. Just thought it was a fun fact. Wanted to throw that in there. It was in the
Oh.
Talmud recently.
I didn't know
that's
that,
amazing.
but
Daf Yomi.
Even though the rabbis interpret, so my Chavruta talked about this, even though the rabbis interpret it that way, that does not necessarily mean that the Or text was geared only towards them. Because remember,
It doesn't
men,
say women.
that, yeah, right, but the generic word for people is masculine in Hebrew. So when a group of men interpret the Talmud that way, it makes me go, okay, that's your version.
Well, yeah, that's exactly how the Talmud works.
That's what I'm saying.
Whole thing about
That's what I'm
it.
saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like
But-
but that doesn't mean that's what it means. It's what they think it means.
Well, yes, but since that's what they think it means, and since allegedly, not according to me, but that's where we derive what we're supposed to do as Jews, it's not for women.
Mhm.
And the other thing to remember is, of course, at the time, everybody had like 5 wives or whatever. So no big deal if one of them didn't want to have babies.
In the time
Things
of
have changed a
Bible,
bit.
by the time the Talmud was codified, they were already like saying, hey, this multiple
It
wives
was
is
still
not
a
good
thing.
idea.
It was still a thing. In fact, if it wasn't still a thing, I wouldn't have had to go through so much in Yevamot about co-wives.
Yeah. But it was to discourage
I'll
it.
never, ever get over that as long as I live.
Well, that's good, because then you'll keep teaching it.
I don't teach it. I just react and I make facial expressions. I do not.
You-
I have to clarify. I do not teach anything. I merely
you are
react.
teaching. Your reactions are a teaching.
Thank you, but then people get really mad at me.
Those people are wrong.
That's on them, not on you.
Mad at me. So I just say I react because I'm not a Talmud teacher. This is my first time doing the Daf Yomi cycle. I've got 5 more years until I can adequately say anything.
Allow me to say that I understand why, from a commercial point of view, you need to say that, but I think you're better than that statement. And I think you are a teacher, and that owning it is fine. Not owning it is also fine. But when you talk Talmud, you are teaching, and you're bringing Torah into a generation that might not have access to Torah without you. And for that, you are not only a teacher, but you're a tzaddik. So
I'm going to add,
Wow.
I'm just going to say,
Thank
Miriam can continue to say that you're not a teacher. I think on
I
our
will direct
podcast,
my haters to call you about
That's
it.
what I'm
gonna
when
say.
they're-
I think
when
all
they're
3
going
of
to
us-
troll me about it.
you do not define yourself as a teacher. I think all 3 of us define you as a teacher. So any of the fans that you brought to this episode who disagree can feel free to contact us, torahsmash.com. Let us know.
come
your
and
thoughts.
see me.
Yeah.
You guys are going to get a lot of hate, and I apologize for
That's it.
that.
We
in
I'd
just
like
advance.
to-
We just got our first hate message last week. And
Oh,
we did? Yeah, that's
how
right. We
exciting.
did.
What was it? I want to react
Read
to it.
it,
What was
read
it?
it,
Read it.
I don't want to do that.
No, yes, let's mock it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Let's mock it into oblivion.
Oh, are you
Well,
talking about the guy
while-
who said meh?
Yeah, that
That-
Yeah,
wait.
yeah, that one.
All
No,
he
no,
said
there was more.
meh?
No. There
That
was
was not-
other.
No.
I was hoping for
language in
something
it.
a little more.
While Barack looks it up, I'd like to join the positivity pylon and just say, I think you're great too.
He's
Well,
and I
thank you.
so I couldn't tell
Aw.
if this was
I
like
I assume that was for me, but it might have been for somebody else. So
No,
sorry.
it was for you.
It's for
Okay,
Barack.
thank you.
it was it was for Ethan. Ethan likes to talk in the third person.
Ethan was talking to his cat.
It says So this was our message we got. It said, "Oh, the battle
All right,
between
let's hear
Jewish erasure and blood libels." Meh.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try real hard not to swear
Yeah, please
in
don't.
my reaction to this.
Yeah.
But everybody listening, just imagine that that's what's in my mind because it is.
I
I don't even understand the comment. I don't
I mean,
know.
my question-
I'm already mad.
The meh throws me off. Is like, are you just giving me like a comment like, meh, I don't think I like it? Or is it like the meh is really downgrades your comment to something? We don't have to go off on this. RDY, do you have any I want to bring us back in because we're going to go over time.
I feel like I didn't talk enough about Jewish stuff and Lord of the Rings. Can we talk about how when they light the beacons of Gondor, that's also in the Talmud?
You know what I will say?
I love that.
I will say this, Miriam. I think this was a really fantastic episode, and I think all of us agree that we'd love to have you back to do.
I would.
We can do another Lord of the Rings episode. We can do another Game of Thrones. We could have you on for one of Ethan's Star Trek episodes.
I would be delighted. Although I have not seen the more recent Star Trek shows. I'm a big Next Gen fan.
Oh, there's plenty of things to pull there. I've already got some
there's
ideas.
a lot to work with. But if you ever do Game of Thrones, if you call anybody else for that, I will go Daenerys.
I would also love to offer to DM you in your second D&D game.
I can't make it in another D&D game. I can't do math. And that's what they discovered. And look, I couldn't do it.
You play with me, I'll do the math for you.
No, that's what they said too. Okay. No.
Okay.
I've learned a lesson.
We'll go bigger. You play with me, I'll let D&D Beyond do the math for you.
Here's my problem. There's so much waiting. There's so much waiting to do things. And I don't have the patience. That's what my yetzer hara is really. I don't have the patience.
Turn-based role play. It's the turn.
I don't have the time.
Same with everyone I DM. Oh, here's what I'm gonna do. Not your turn yet.
I like mad respect for people who do have the patience, but I don't. And I own that. That's my fault. But delighted to talk about Game of Thrones and Judaism because there's so much to do there.
I'm gonna have to watch the series. I've read the books.
Oh, really? Yes. Okay. Much.
I stopped watching the series when the series went like this from the books. I was like, okay, enough. So I stopped.
May I, RDY, just for those of you who are not watching us on your podcast app, RDY sort of made a separating of the Red Sea sort of vision for us.
And where do you find that diversion happened?
Season 4.
Season 4? Sorry, that was really loud. Season 4?
Wow. Did my wife just walk in? What just happened?
But okay, I know I'll save it for that other episode because I have a lot of follow-up questions, thoughts, and feelings, but I'll save them.
I'll get you want to get even madder at me? I didn't even make it to the Red Wedding.
That's in season 3.
Oh, then maybe I skipped it or fell asleep.
I don't know if that's better.
Again, listeners, how could you listen to this? He didn't even know what season the Red Wedding was in.
I know what book it's in.
Really? I doubt it.
So I'm
which book?
Harsh. So nasty. We're we all have our areas of expertise.
Do we? I'm sorry. That was very rude. That was my yetzer hara. I couldn't. You just let it out there. You just put it out there. I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't actually mean it. It was just an opening and I had to take it.
I can take it. I can take it, my teacher. No worries.
That's so
I can't. So don't dish it back out.
Fair. I think we all need to be accepting of everybody's yetzer hara. I think that's the piece of the world that is a little missing. That
so true.
We need to just have that patience. Unless there's an unless.
Because sometimes the yetzer hara makes you do really bad things.
Yes.
Like really bad things.
Yeah. Like make fun of rabbis.
Yeah, terrible things. I'm going to go to Gehenna for this, but the thing is that all of us are for at least 11 months.
For sure.
So I'll be in good company at least. But
the music's better there anyway.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, please come back. Don't forget about us when you're big and famous and popular. You are already, so don't forget about us. Come back.
We'll continue not to forget about you as this happens. Summon me back for when you talk about House of the Dragon.
Cool. Great.
You guys know what that is.
Isn't that the new Game of Thrones series?
Listener.
I know it has a G in it, right?
Oh my
House of the
God.
Dragon is the upcoming
It
prequel
does-
to Game of Thrones.
Dragon has a G in it.
Thank you.
I just said
Thank
it.
you.
RDY, do you have anything to close us out with?
I would just like to thank you, Miriam, for being
you're
here
so
with us,
welcome.
for spending your evening with us, and for teaching us.
I was delighted to be here. This is so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. This really is my favorite thing to do, is talk about Jewish stuff and nerd stuff. So
Nice.
I'm
Us too.
delighted, and I really love what you guys do.
For
despite
those of you
everything
that
I
wanna-
just said.
For those of you that want to jump ship and follow you now, where can they find you?
Everywhere, but primarily TikTok. You can find me at Miriam Anzovin on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. On Twitter, I am Anzovina, and I'm also at miriamanzovin.com.
And Anzovin is spelled Anzovin, right?
Correct. Thank you for doing that. That's the one thing I forgot to to explain.
Cool. Great. RDY, you're good. That wraps us up.
I am so happy. I'm kind of euphoric.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. Today's episode was supported in part by Sinai and Synapses, which offers people a worldview that is both scientifically grounded and spiritually uplifting. They provide tools and language for learning and living to those who see science as their ally as they pursue personal growth and the repair of our world. Sinai and Synapses equips scientists, clergy, and dedicated lay people with knowledge and skills to become role models, ambassadors, and activists for grappling with the biggest and most important questions we all face. To learn more, visit www.sinaiandsynapses.org. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torahsmash.com to find where to connect with us online, email us directly, and find previous episodes and more. And if you're wondering what that unfamiliar Hebrew inscription says, allow us to translate. One Torah to rule them all, one Torah to find them, one Torah to bring them all, and in the Aron HaKodesh scribe them.
Should we do no spoilers for Lord of the Rings? Just kidding. It's been an ill minute.